Welcome back to Game 2 of Infinity Esports versus G2 Esports, where the representatives from the LLN are up 1-0. And what was a couple of pretty decisive fights in their favor towards the end of the game. So this team showing up to a certain degree as expected with this late game team fighting prowess. Many people, I think, are just surprised that they got there.
So I think we saw a couple things. First one is that G2 drafted in a way that they often found success, at the very least in the gauntlet, which was get an early game lead and then use that early game lead to close out a game very efficiently. They failed to find that early game lead this time around. A lot of that was because Infinity decided to attack the bot lane. Now, this is a strategy that not many teams did in Europe, but we did see occasionally from teams like Vitality who love to be aggressive. Now, the thing about SolidSnake is we know he's a playmaker. We know he likes to be proactive, and what we also saw from Infinity was by neutralizing the bot side of the map from G2, it meant that Infinity could just stall out the early game. It was very difficult for G2 to actually force a lot of plays and kind of snowball into a big advantage outside of their individual lane advantage. So because Wunder and Perkz were playing so well individually, they had a huge gold lead, but they very rarely turned that into actual objectives. And because Infinity had so much more control over the map, they were able to find more successful fights, get their hands on more Barons and Dragons, and ultimately end up winning the game.
And you look at some of those fights as well, you saw that G2 just didn't really have the tools to start a fight on their terms. They were really praying for those long-range Syndra stuns, and we'll have to see how their draft changes up this time, because I think you're completely right, Vedius. So many of those objectives Infinity gave up, they traded for farm, but 30, 40 farm not worth a lot if you can't hit anybody with it.
But they're going to give away the Urgot once again, and I feel like that when we talked about the draft last time around, we were quite curious as to why they decided to prioritize the Aatrox over the Urgot, because Urgot has flexibility. We know that it can be played both mid and top, but Infinity are going to do the same thing.
People, so, I mean, it's a more interesting champion if you're like, I want to have more fun. Aatrox, I think,
for sure,
more dynamic.
Like, throughout the playing stage, we saw teams prioritize the Urgot over the Aatrox, but now teams are saying, okay, we want the Aatrox more than we want the Urgot. So this fascinates me. I'm curious as to why that priority has shifted. But regardless, G2 get their hands on the Urgot. Of course, that can go both into top and mid. We're seeing reverse drafts. No way. If they lock in Syndra right now, Infinity is saying, you know what?
We got Kai'Sa first before the Syndra.
Oh, Kai'Sa, you're quite right. Kai'Sa.
This, if you are a European fan,
do it. Lock in
right now, the biggest fear sitting in the back of your head, if you're a European fan, is that they're going to give us the run back with G2's own draft, and they're going to smash them. And that is your greatest fear, because it will be the greatest esports meme of all time. Goodbye to Kaboom. But more importantly, the series is still much closer than either side expected, and Cotopaco getting his hands on his LeBlanc. G2, interestingly, still going with the hyper carry, still putting their faith in Hjarnan and giving him the Kai'Sa. The Kai'Sa Alistar, not the best lane from G2 from what we've seen historically, but still very powerful champion.
All right, so Cotopaco on the Urgot last game, he could just survive the laning phase. We didn't see any early ganks mid from Jankos. We didn't see that much pressure being generated. He actually spent a lot of his time roaming. Now Cotopaco is saying, you know what, Perkz? I think I can get a lead over you. I think I can play LeBlanc, and I think I can carry this game. And he had a very impressive game versus the Direwolves on the LeBlanc, but against Perkz, that's a bold call. I'm looking forward to seeing it, because that's a very confident play coming out from Cotopaco.
And I'm just wondering if they're remembering that Direwolves game. They've already banned Nocturne. They've taken away some of that playmaking potential. The question is, how does SolidSnake back this up as his pool is being limited? Cotopaco even more confidently says, Perkz, meet me head to head. He says, I'm going to take away this Lissandra. I'm going to take away all those champions that want to play safe. Let's go toe to toe. Where's your assassin at, Perkz? Show me a Zed. Show me something. Show me something fiery.
Ambitious, but we'll see. He may go for the Urgot mid himself. Remember, of course, you can still flex that around. We'll have to wait and see. Jungle is being banned out from G2 for the time being. With this many jungle bans, they could look for a Camille first pick. Gragas could also be... Oh, no, they've already banned the Gragas.
Well, Talia's up and available. Maybe they just banned Talia on the side of Infinity right here?
No, surely they're going to... They ban another mid laner. Yeah, Syndra makes a lot of sense. I'm curious as to what mid laners you can run left into LeBlanc.
And honestly, just Vedius, the difference in draft priority between this series and our last series, outside of course, the Aatrox, where I got support relatively the same, is interesting. It feels like a huge shift here.
Camille. You could do Ryze and Zoe at 2 options. Yeah, Camille. I actually think they're going to put the Urgot mid against the LeBlanc. He's just going to prioritize early magic resistance. He's going to try and survive. And then G2 they can't draft the Akali into the top lane like they did before against an Aatrox. But the Camille coming out for Jankos, the champion has slowly risen in popularity once again.
Oh.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
The Kog'Maw.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Now, Kog'Maw did receive a couple of small buffs over like 817, 818, 819. I can't remember which patch specifically, but the range to his ulti got buffed. Kind of small, but it kind of reignited the idea of, well, if Kai'Sa's a really strong champion, you know who's a really good answer to Kai'Sa? Kog'Maw. In lane, he is so obnoxious to deal with, and he's one of the few that you could argue that just kind of can match her in terms of the scaling potential.
In Vedius, I wanted to see what aggressive pick was going to back up this LeBlanc choice in the mid lane. It is the Xin. SolidSnake ready to go toe-to-toe with Jankos yet again. This man has so much confidence on this stage.
I love these drafts from Infinity. Game 1, they went much more for the scaling option. Game 2, they're like, all right, you want to play early game? Let's play early game. They've drafted the Aatrox, they've got LeBlanc, Zhao. Now it's Infinity playing around the top side of the map. They could even hard camp bot if they wanted to. Like, you don't have a huge amount of setup, but when you have Zhao and LeBlanc, they're all the setup that you need. All the Kog'Maw needs to bring is the damage. So, man, Infinity really changing things up. They showed late game in game 1, they're showing a little bit early game 2. And for G2, they're kind of saying, all right, well, we too have early game, we have a couple lanes that we can play around, but we're much more geared towards the team fight. Pick comp with the Camille and the Malzahar, play a lot around mid at the level 6 mark, but a lot more scaling this time around on their side of the map.
And I also like that they're going for champions that can more aggressively initiate some of these plays. You've got the Camille, you've got the Malzahar, point and click, get a fight started.
Alistar in there as well.
Alistar too, and I think that that proactive draft coming in from G2 will help them a lot, because that was one of the issues, right, is that they could just really never start a team fight on their terms. They had to wait for Infinity to kick things off. This time, things are going to be a little bit different, and is G2 going to be the team put on the back foot here in the early game to play for the later game team fights? Are we just switching roles?
I can't wait to see. I don't know. Because, you know, like, whenever Wunder plays this matchup, he wins this matchup. Urgot versus Aatrox has typically gone in his favor. So you're expecting him to have the push up towards the top side of the map. But that could be what they want. Maybe they want him to overextend and they want to then try and punish it.
I love how deep you're going. That just shows how much the mind games could be for G2 right now, because they expected to come in here, be confident, look good. You heard in the Jankos draft, or in the Jankos interview, every scrim they won. Well, so far, every stage game versus Infinity, they have lost. And as we go into game 2, that has to be heavy on the minds of G2. Infinity 1 up on the blue side. Aatrox versus Urgot, the new classic matchup on the top side of the map. And interestingly enough, Perkz the one with the defensive champion choice. Cotopaco trying the LeBlanc out.
Do you remember when he played Malzahar in the Gauntlet, Game 5?
I do.
Do you remember how bad it was? It wasn't very good. I've not really been. I'm not impressed with Perkz when he plays control mages. I think he is a playmaker style player. But I remember him too saying in the interview afterwards that he was not impressed with his own Malzahar performance, and he himself said that he definitely knows he can play the champion better. So we'll see how well he does this time around. A bit of back and forth.
A double area proc though for Perkz makes that nice.
Anything different in terms of the runes on either side? Lethal
Ever since that aftershock, you're like, you're ready now.
It's my first check thing, you know. I'm like, can't miss this stuff, you know. So the lethal tempo on the Kog'Maw. We haven't seen Kog'Maw in a while. One of the big reasons why Kog'Maw is so good in a matchup against Kai'Sa is because his W instantly outranges the Kai'Sa, which means that you just always lose trades every single time. And it's really obnoxious for the Kai'Sa to deal with, and you can also very easily proc that lethal tempo, which means that you just kind of spew all this bile. Now it's in early gank mid.
Not really a lot of options where to go. Jankos just goes right back to where the clone is, already getting the flash, and SolidSnake a little bit late to the party. Jankos on the map at 2 minutes. We didn't see him for the first 10, I believe, in the previous game.
So Jankos there, he flash stunned, expecting Cotopaco to instantly jump back towards the clone, but Cotopaco smartly holds on to it. Then, the moment the stun has disappeared, he teleports back and then he flashes out. But that is a flash gone now for the LeBlanc, and Jankos looking for another gank.
Arce definitely did not start W. So this is going to be a little bit difficult. He's going to get stunned up. Renyu going to do what he can. The flash out of safety. That's the head pulverized. Arce goes down for first blood to Jankos.
Damn. Jankos. He's feeling way more aggressive this game. He's like, listen, I wasn't aggressive enough in game 1. Game 2, we need to change that. Now, he's hanging around the bot side. Okay, good read there from Renyu. he's going to say, I know what you're trying to do, and I'm not going to let it happen. But no summoner spells towards the bot side of the map. Jankos, he draws himself first blood.
And we look back.
So he does get... he doesn't get spotted. So they don't actually see him. They just see the gank mid. You can assume that he is playing towards bot side, but you would expect him to be on his blue buff. And Infinity just kind of only at level 1, just freely pushing up. They think they're fine. Wadid and Hjarnan not quite level 2. But then they get the flash out from Renyu. Then they stun up, and then Wadid, he just gets level 2 as he's going in for the headbutt. Then he's able to flash in, land the pulverize, and secure the kill.
I think they were 1 creep off level 2 on the side of Infinity. That is such a close play. Well done by Jankos in the end to make that really happen. Right now on the top side, Relic's getting pressure, so that's at least something for the Infinity lineup, but already G2 has to be feeling a lot more confident. It was a tough start in game 1, but Jankos going off in the early game has always been the key to this team's success.
Certainly has been. And while we didn't see it in game 1, we're seeing a lot more of it in game 2, and this time he's playing around the bot side of the map, trying to enable Hjarnan and Wadid, and we know how tough this matchup can be. I remember seeing the Kog'Maw come out at MSI in double lift, in fact, and really having a very impressive performance on the champion. I believe it was against Reckless as well, so kind of limit that as much as possible. And now the wave is in a great spot for Hjarnan and Wadid too. No summoner spells, as previously mentioned, for Renyu and Arce. Means that Jankos should look for another gank bot. Go back to base, path towards the bot side of the map, and see if you can continue to shut down this scaling hypercarrying Kog'Maw.
You know SolidSnake now feels a little bit on the back foot. If he goes topside to support his top laner and try to shut down that Urgot, what's it going to cost him on the bottom side of the map? A bit more vision placed this time. Hopefully this ward will spot Jankos. They've placed 3 now in that area. Pushing in for a bit more damage, so you can see Hjarnan happy with that assist, gets to go back and buy a Cole. Very aware that this lane will most likely be about scaling or jungle support. Both laners going for that option, so while we expect junglers to make an appearance here, Jankos is right on time, as predicted. Vedius, well done. Both the laners, the junglers want to kill people, and the laners are happy to participate, but the Cole just tells me, like, even if no one shows up, we're all good just farming down here. A little extra life on hit. Surprise Camille in the jungle. Observers are playing with our hearts, man. I feel like she's in the bush. What is she up there? We're being... there she is. Well done.
So Jankos just going to drop his control ward in. Ooh. Is he going to... See, the lanes aren't really in a great spot for him to set up that kind of an early game gank. So he's just kind of posturing right now. He is level 4, so he has been able to keep up with SolidSnake. And now it is Infinity's turn to try and make a play.
Want to move in for this one. Backing off just a little bit. Not going to go for much more, though, here. SolidSnake potentially could be in trouble here.
Not worth going for, though.
Yeah.
Cotopaco
and of course,
is in a much better position to try and assist. And as you rightly said, level 5, level 6 now on Cotopaco. Jankos has to back off. Bot lane needs to concede some pressure as well, just because of SolidSnake getting that river control. Cotopaco also pushing in the mid lane. Still very close in the early game. Jankos needs to be careful that he doesn't fall too far behind after trying to make that early game play.
The issue, of course, Camille, fantastic gankling jungler. Clear, not quite as comfortable as Zins. You saw him falling very low to that Raptor camp a little bit earlier. Has a few more levels under his belt, and it will get a little bit easier as they push forward. Interestingly, though, checking in on the top side, Wunder suffering a bit in CS, just barely matching the Aatrox here.
Oh, fair enough.
And after last game, I think we kind of expected Wunder to just smash through. You can see Wunder's early game in Europe, just utterly fantastic. 28.8 CSD.
Look at the jungle proximity. This guy, he doesn't often get jungle attention. The team often relies on him to kind of build his own leads, and then the jungler shows up to either secure a tower, maybe help set up a dive, but they don't try and gank for him to get him ahead. He just gets leads by himself, and this is why so many of the top laners in Europe have high regard for him, and why even internationally he's given a lot of respect.
And I misspoke. Those are the stats from this group stage, the play-ins group stage, and I really love that 1K gold difference at 15, because that's not the team's goal, Viddy. That's his goal. Wunder on average up a huge amount, but right now, small lead for the Urgot, doing better as he has a few more levels under his belt.
But it's also, so I had someone tweet this at me. The fascinating thing is, even though Wunder got such a massive gold lead in the last game, at the very end of the game, it was Relic who interrupted the Tahm Kench ultimate to stop G2 from being able to save Wunder, who ended up getting caught out in the side lane. So kind of when you compare the value of who ended up actually securing a bigger advantage for the team, it was Relic that ended up coming out on top last
This
game.
sounds like you've been behind in CS a few too many times in your solo queue games, and you're like, guys, look, it's okay. See, you can lose.
Falling behind, but it's called losing gracefully.
And that's very true, because we saw both of the solo lanes lose quite terribly in CS, but still make it up for an impact on the map.
And that's the point that I want to make, because for G2, their leads come from individual talent. They have really good players. But for Infinity, while they can't match G2 maybe individually, the teamwork aspect is what they're trying to take advantage of. And for G2, they've often been criticized for their mid to late game team fighting and coordination and just kind of making mistakes. Whereas Infinity, it is their team fighting that they're praised for and their ability to work together. First item, QXZ.
Cotopaco wants to keep the pressure up in mid lane. May not do a ton of damage here, but does stop him from getting killed outright by that combo. Jankos was in the area, and now SolidSnake is chasing away the Camille. She's just going to run down to bot lane. That's level 6 for Jankos. Kog'Maw's going to be in trouble, but Arce is going to try to pull him back to safety. Exhaust goes down. The Kog'Maw is split out. Tahm Kench all but set to fall, but the Zhao is here maybe to look for a turn and burn. Ulti already burned. SolidSnake, is he going to commit the flash for it? I can't imagine he'll do it, but play still diffuses. 2 summoners burned now on the side of Infinity, but also getting the Ignite out from Wadid.
Yeah, both the flash and heal used for Renyu. He knew that if he didn't, he would have been locked up by Jankos, and that could have been his death sentence. Arce still has his flash, though, which means that he can gobble up his AD carry, flash away, and take him to safety. So, still going to be difficult for G2 to gank this bot lane, but outside of that early gank bot, Infinity doing a good job of mitigating the early pressure from Jankos, and SolidSnake starting to build up a pretty healthy lead in terms of levels and farm.
Relic doing well as well on the top side. Or Wunder, rather. Starting to build up CS lead. SolidSnake now going in onto Hjarnan. Gets a good amount of damage now. Renyu looks for the ball, the flash forward. Now going to knock up Wadid, trying to throw down a little bit more damage. Bullying him out of lane. And forcing not a whole lot in the end. Burning his flash. And now Jankos is here for the repeat play. Have to be careful. SolidSnake computes this back, but Jankos just retreating, and both bot lanes are playing so incredibly aggressive, so scrappy when the junglers are there, but it's just not amounting to much.
Just a bit of trading back and forth. I like that we're seeing a lot of early game action from both junglers, though. SolidSnake going up against Jankos. Jankos is a very well-known name, even though he doesn't have the most amount of international performances for Europe. This guy has been around for a very long time, and every time you speak to anyone, they always show respect towards Jankos. He's a guy that everyone says he's a really talented jungler, very smart, knows how to be aggressive in the early game, and SolidSnake has been matching him throughout this series so far. In Game 1, he really mitigated Skarner's pressure, and now in Game 2, while Jankos was able to be the greater aggressor during the first couple of levels, SolidSnake is now matching with his aggression of his own.
We see this once again. Jankos and Perkz ready to go to the top side to try to threaten Relic, try to shut him down. Of course, the ultimate for Relic means he has a certain degree of safety. Moving in to contest a little bit of vision here. Ward's down, but Wunder's right there. Relic. He thinks it's juicy. We've all been there. You want the 130 gold, I know. He's not going to take it, though, Vetty. He's not going to take the delicious scuttle bait.
Then we forced to back away. Game still in a fairly slow state, and I think it's important to take into consideration who benefits more from this. At this point in the game, Infinity want to be the stronger team. They have LeBlanc, Zhao. I'll be honest, that duo, not the best in late game fights, but at the same time, Camille's a lot of single target. Yes, it's easy to lock an opponent down, but there's the Tahm Kench to help provide that extra bit of peel. And while last game, Infinity, they had a scaling hyper carry and had a solid front line, neither side really has that strong front line this time around. The Alistar, you could argue, is there, but I feel like these fights are going to be a lot more scrappy. And as the game progresses, it's all going to come down to execution again from these AD carries.
3 members in the book, they're trying to burst down Wadid, but he has the ultimate there. Tahm Kench buying as much time as he can. Renyu, though, left up and available, trying to get something back. Wadid will drop here. The heal comes out. He's flashing to safety. They are going to get one back. Jankos, though, needs to be careful on the tree, but Perkz is here. Perkz is ready to save the day. That's 1 kill going down. He's pointing, he's clicking, and Cotopaco wants something so badly. Will trade it back, but so many kills going over to G2 in the exchange.
Ends up being a 2 for 3 in favor of G2, and the crucial difference was that Hjarnan was not focused, whereas Renyu was. And if it wasn't for the arrival of Cotopaco, that fight could have gone much worse for G2. But in the end, they end up finding the kills that they want in this early game, and Infinity fall behind.
Perkz now continuing to trade. Wunder on the way. Cotopaco with almost no mana here. Wunder ghosting in. Can offer him with a bit of slow. The silence is there. The ignite is there. He's running. He's trying to juke him, but there's the target right on him with that ignite, and Wunder grabs another kill. Vedius, this game is completely different from game one.
And Wunder roams from the top side of the map down to mid, recognizing that Cotopaco had used all his summoner spells to try and get this kill down bot. Now G2, they see what's happening. They know that with the Alistar and Camille, they can go for this play. And the mistake here from Arce is that he gobbles up his jungler, which means that Renyu is left for the wolves. Ooh, but we have to go back because there's more action.
I thought Relic wants to keep it going, trying to get out to safety. Already burning the passive, but that's not enough for the side of G2. They want to take him out. Buying a bit of time, wait, pulling him back out from under the tower. My God, the patience. They are not giving this man a chance. Where's he gonna go? Relic needs to run, needs to make it out. SolidSnake is there, but it's too little too late, and the bot side is dying as well. After a tough loss in game one, G2 are here to play.
And now G2 have kicked things into gear. They find a successful kill up top. Perkz roams down towards the bot side of the map, and they find another kill going in their favor. And now the gold is starting to mount in the pockets of G2. Hjarnan and Wadid, 2-0-3 on the Kai'Sa.
And Vedius, in game one, it was so much about all the objectives Infinity were taking, and the individual leads for G2 not amounting to much, not being snowballed anywhere. This game, Infinity tried to go toe-to-toe a little bit with the LeBlanc, with the Zhao. And now we're seeing what's happening when G2 get to play their game. Jankos with the early impact, immediately snowballing, taking the entire map by storm.
So now we get to see, how the bot lane fight kicked off. And bit of a mistake there from Renyu and Arce. They just wanted to get a bit of vision, but they had no control over mid. LeBlanc is back in base, which meant the Perkz could roam down into the river. And because it's 3 versus 2, they end up securing some pretty easy kills. So yeah, big mistake there from the bottom lane of Infinity. You got to keep an eye on where your other laners are. If you don't have pressure, you can't move into certain areas of the map.
And we see this, the goal difference from this team, they were a slight deficit for Infinity. They were getting objectives across the map, 2 of 15, 80% drag control. It was a good look for this lineup, Vedius, when they were playing the objective-focused game, and it looks like when it comes to trying to match an early pressure and early kills, they are just a step behind G2 this time around.
So G2 should know that the jungler's there because that ward suddenly got cleared out of nowhere. So unless Infinity have the power of magic, now
Cotopaco pressed, trying to buy his way out of there, but Camille's just not going to let it happen. Trying to juke, but it's not enough. They'll just kill the clone and him in the process. G2 complete control of mid lane, moving up extra members. They're looking to break this tower, Vedius.
Wunder once again roaming down. While his damage isn't needed, the pressure should be enough to secure this tower. Here comes Relic from the flank.
To get something done. Will they die for anything more? Relic is here. SolidSnake wants to get it started. Uses the ult, but just pushes them back. The tower's still going to drop. Relic wants to go in, but Wadid is going to turn it right back. Now the Aatrox to the back line, though, wants to get it started, but the silence is going to stop him from getting much more impact than that. SolidSnake on the retreat. Everybody else is dead. Tahm Kench has to save the ulted Aatrox just to keep this from getting any worse.
So no one ends up dying on either side, but G2 walk away with the tower. Hjarnan also left to free farm in the bot side of the map, means that he will get a level advantage along with a free tower as well in the back pocket of G2. They've taken this early game by storm. Things started off a little bit slow, but kill after kill is being racked up for G2. And they seem a little angry after game one's performance.
Definitely the case. We take a look back at this replay and you can just see Cotopaco doesn't have a significant lead, doesn't do a lot of damage to Perkz. And when it comes to 2v1, I cannot imagine anything more frustrating to play against than that Camille Malzahar, and just beautiful, straightforward execution from the G2 lineup to make that come through.
Yeah, exactly that. Cotopaco, you've always got to be careful on LeBlanc when you use your W to harass, because even though he has the QSS, one of your escape tools disappears, which makes it that much easier for Jankos to lock you down. And then G2, between both the Malzahar and the Camille, I mean, they do a lot of damage in the early game. So now Infinity, after losing the bot side of the map, has swapped their bot type, their duo up towards the top, so they can either secure an extra tower along with the Rift Herald. And Jankos, they don't feel confident enough to go for the skirmish. It's a little too late, so they will hand this objective over.
Infinity finally getting one of those objectives that they had so many of last game. We'll get more here, but Perkz just continues to pressure in the mid lane. The team is there to back him up. Infinity commit here. They're going to find a face full of Jankos. Perkz is playing absolutely fearlessly, continuing to press up. Every single lane doing great for G2 right now. It is not just bot lane no longer the point of advantage for the side of Infinity. An 0-1-2 Kog'Maw just finishing the Blade of the Rune King up against a 1.5 item Kai'Sa. 16-17 CS lead along with massive leads in the solo lanes, and this is just oppressive, Betty. As you look at that top lane, you look at that 2K difference. Feels, it's not insurmountable, but it is dang close.
And you can see the difference, right? In game 1, Infinity had so much objective control. They had a huge tower lead. Their bot lane was ahead. That the goal, there was ways for them to still be relevant in the game, right? Even though Wunder and Perkz have built up such massive individual leads, but this time round, Perkz has a massive lead, Wunder has a massive lead, and honestly, it is off the back of Jankos. But now the bot lane is ahead as well, which means that this goal lead is really that much bigger, and Infinity can't rely on the global goal that they gained from the objectives of last game.
No, they cannot, and they don't even have the composition that they had last time around. They still have the scaling hyper carry, but not nearly as many tanks to get things kicked off.
And playing LeBlanc, you kind of rely on having an early game advantage too, because you want to be this threat on the side lane, and in these late game team fights, you want to have the burst to be able to chunk targets out, but you have the Luden's Echo, you're still behind the Malzahar though, you're down in levels, you're still very squishy, and it's a much harder game for the LeBlanc to play out once you're at this kind of deficit 20 minutes into the game.
Absolutely is the case, Vedius. I mean, you commit so much to the QSS as well in this Malzahar matchup just to remain a pressure point. And here things go. Infinity now knows something's up. They see at least 2 members. They can assume Perkz is there as well, but I don't think they can hold this tier 1 tower, Vedius. If they stay, this could be disastrous.
Well, the important thing is that G2 have to reclaim mid control before they can go back to setting up a siege on top side. Impressive though that Hjarnan can just hold them by himself up in the 2 versus 1. SolidSnake is hanging around and G2 will spot this one out. Also, Wunder has teleport, Relic has teleport as well. No flash on SolidSnake could be important as G2 once again set up a siege towards the top tower.
Creep wave getting cleared out there. You can see Infinity stepping forward. They know that they sit under their tower. Very easy for G2 to collapse, and now SolidSnake ready to threaten Hjarnan, but enough attack speed there to give Hjarnan the stealth and the escape. Ultimate could have come out, Cotopaco running, but there is no running from that Hex Tech ultimatum. Spotted out, the clone getting brought back by Wunder. We call that an oopsie. Cotopaco making it to safety with some fancy footwork. Now backing off though, they're not done yet. SolidSnake gonna be in trouble, but Relic is off to the side looking to get this fight kicked off. Zhao immune under the strength of that ultimate. Aatrox not gonna be so lucky, pulling back under the tower. Renyu in no man's land, cannot come to help the team, and G2 walking away empty-handed, but forcing a lot of summoner spells.
Cotopaco almost lost his life, and if it weren't for the clone, he probably would have. But Wunder, he doesn't land the ulti onto the right target. Cotopaco ends up getting away with his life, but now Perkz will TP up towards the top side of the map and use this minion wave to secure another tower in favor of G2. Infinity, whatever they try to do, whether it be individually or as a team, G2 just instantly punish it. And with this kind of a goal lead, they feel so much stronger as Infinity now siege up mid.
Wunder running. Have to be careful, have to respect the potential for a re-engage here. Cotopaco, despite giving up so many summoner spells in that previous exchange, still playing on the front line, still ready to try to make something happy. But Perkz is on the way, has the ultimate available. Cotopaco trying to burn down Jankos, wants to take out the Camille, leaping back to safety. Rift-Herald is here as well, but Hjarnan's there to clear it out, and Infinity just desperately trying to break this tower. They are going to get it, but 1-3 now the tower score, still a 6K goal difference.
You can also see in the top lane, there is a big minion wave from G2 that is just being lost to the tower. While Infinity will secure this objective, the fact that all that experience and gold is being lost is a really big deal, and you can never really afford to just give away all this farm.
Renyu picking up the scraps here.
Or not.
Well, the single scrap, not gonna grab it.
So this is right back at the beginning of the fight. Again, Cotopaco just trying to get a bit of damage down onto Perkz, and that is when he gets punished, because Jankos throws the ulti down, locks him inside the pit, and then he takes a back step with the passive clone, and then Perkz isn't quite able to land the stun either, and Jankos flashes in to try and secure that final kill, but not quite enough. And then when Relic joins the fight, you think, oh, this could be pretty good for Infinity, but again, Renyu isn't quite here yet, and SolidSnake isn't involved, so well, this actually is a 2 versus 5, in which Relic is forced to disengage. But again, his ulti is what helps keep him alive and get him out of that situation. So G2 don't find any kills, they do lose their mid tower, they trade it for a top tower, and are at this point in the game where G2 have full Drake control, have push in both mid and bot, and will start setting up vision around the back.
Last game, it was teamfight execution that we thought would carry Infinity through if it was going to be anything. This game, that option not nearly as strong, and the solo lanes on the side of G2 are as terrifying as ever. Kog'Maw picking up enough farm to stay even with the Kai'Sa, at least in terms of the raw number there, but you look across the rest of the lanes, Vedius, these are devastating advantages for the Malzahar and the Urgot. I feel like Wunder is just looking for a flame horizon every game if he's given the opportunity.
He has a habit of trying to do that. He's very efficient with his farming. He doesn't like to waste time. Does have the TP flasher with the spellbook. Same for Relic. No summoners available for Cotopaco right now, and no flash for Jankos either. But looking at some of the items that have been completed, 2 items now done for Perkz. The Rise is really helpful against the LeBlanc as well because of all the extra health you get. And Hjarnan still going for the AP build, but now Wunder could be in some trouble. How can G2 punish, if at all?
Trying to run. Infinity now moving forward, but you can see G2 setting up around the Baron pit. They will threaten to take this if they fully commit onto Wunder. SolidSnake is there. There's no jungler. We're all eyes on Wunder, but the Baron is just as important at this stage of the game. Wunder now running for his life. He doesn't really have any other options out. Wants to pull him back. He's going to get the fear off. Can Wunder actually outplay this? He's already 2v1. He's already survived. He's already bought enough time for his team to take the Baron. Infinity have to contest now or they're going to lose everything. Baron dropping for G2. Wunder is still alive. He's still looking for the outplay. He's going to break the passive as well on the retreat.
Oh
my God!
Wunder finds himself the 2 versus 1 on the Urgot, and this is why he's considered one of the best top laners in Europe.
Vedius, I am lost for words. Fantastic from Wunder. The rest of G2 now gets to have a heyday with the map. They have a man advantage. They have the Baron. They are uncontested, and Wunder is here again. He just says, throw a few more at me. Send 3, send 4. My team's going to keep carrying this one through, and Wunder, beautiful performance thus far. Now the engage comes in as well. This could just be the final fight. SolidSnake determined to get something back. Malzahar throwing a silencer to the back line. Cotopaco so incredibly low. Renyu free hitting under the back line, but he just doesn't have enough damage to this stage. Camille coming out. The ulti going to be used on a clone, though not what they needed. But Hjarnan's pushing up the mid lane. G2 are breaking the base uncontested.
G2, they have all 5 members alive. Relic has now respawned and is ready to group up with his team, but G2, they'll take the tower. Going for the inhib, could be a little greedy.
Could potentially get the second inhib. SolidSnake, the one who's too greedy, though. The killing spree from Perkz. Jankos gets the fight started again. Hjarnan going in. He's got that lust for blood. He's ready. Too long as he sats passive on the bottom side of the map. He's ready to get the fight started. Wunder throwing out the ultimate. The Kog'Maw is spit out. Not going to happen, but here it is. G2 bringing it back in game 2. They're going to take out the opposition. They're going to crush them at every single turn. And in game 2, the story of G2 is dominance.
G2 looking a lot more convincing this time around. A lot of it off the back of Jankos' early game playmaking. SolidSnake tried to match some of that skirmishing power, but was often outmatched, and the important difference was that this time, the bot lane of Infinity did not get ahead. Hjarnan and Wadid were in a comfortable spot, and that is when you get to see the solo laners really come into their own. The leads that they're able to build up with the support that they have from their jungler was just so impactful this time around.
Never give Wunder Aatrox again. That's what I heard.
Aatrox or Urgot?
Or Urgot, that one.
This is why I wondered why they first picked the Aatrox in game 1, because like this guy on Urgot is like...
You saw. We all saw. It was a 2v1. We'll probably see it again because we've got our analysts ready to tell you more about how G2 tied the series. Take it away, guys.
Well, thank you very much, and I think we can all agree about Urgot and Wunder, but more than that, I think G2 really put it in their heads that going even against Infinity and then taking those team fights later or in the mid-game is not what they want to do. In fact, they want to snowball the game from the start, which made this a completely different game.
Yeah, and they had a much better comp to play against snowballing because on the side of Infinity, they did not stick to their game plan about what worked at all. Yeah, they took losing matchups that we weren't happy about, but at the very end of the day, they had a number of tanks with insane engage options that forced Wadid to play out of his mind on Tahm Kench. Not at all the case here.
Yeah, and you got to look at the windows that you have to play around when you have champions that are so good at going forward, like Gragas and Alistar. Now you mirror those windows, and the ability to outplay with the likes of the Tahm Kench is there, but it is so much harder to get it done in high-pressure situations, and they continue to fumble it.
And maybe European fans breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that Jankos could do it on something else. Then Olaf, and he's also our MasterCard player of the game, Jankos on the Camille this time around, found the early game windows necessary to get G2 going.
Right, it's a bit of a combo sandwich here where he has been playing much better this game and was able to get the mid lane flash, run bot lane instantly, start snowballing this Kog'Maw who has no defensive abilities against a very heavy engage and dive comp out of the side of G2, and they were able to exploit that early and often. And that's really what allowed them to snowball. Plus, like we said, no tanks, no control mage, no nothing, just a bunch of assassins, basically.
Just no real ability to go forward. You could see right there that Zhao used to the disengage, Tahm Kench used for disengage, not really going to get it done. Once again, in the top lane, Poppy a much more forgiving champion than Aatrox at this stage. If you're even on Aatrox, you're really not going to be able to get your job done. And Jankos visited every single lane in this map and gave it an advantage.
Yeah, he looks more like the Jankos we always talk about when we talk about the First Blood King and the guy that's very proactive early on. So I did have still that lingering feeling since in game 1 it also turned around, that we know the prowess of Infinity, that it would turn, but it did seem more and more like this was G2's game to win.
And they had a lot more control. I actually think a lot of that has to do with the Malzahar pick in the mid lane, actually. I didn't love the pick in the champion select, but when you slow the game down to that tempo, Malzahar gives you an element of being able to create space in a team fight through the big fields of control that he has with the silence. And I think that that is kind of one of those sleeper picks where if you can get it through the early game into the mid game and he wasn't being pressured all that much, can work out massively for you.
And then when it came to this outplay we're going to look at in just a second, Wunder 2v1 in bot. We said it already, he's great on Urgot, but not very often you get the highlight reel. And you guys said, well, actually maybe Aatrox should have been able to kill him.
And hang on a second, hang on a second.
Did he not watch my segment?
What happened?
You gotta ult early for the damage. Look, you would have killed this guy if you had 35% bonus AP or whatever it's at this point. AG, excuse me. He would have died a long time ago, as instead your jungler dies. He was trying to greed out his ultimate for the potential Baron Force on the top side, but when you're behind, you can't be that greedy with your cooldown.
And still in combat, so we didn't get the bonus movement speed.
And then
segment number 1 was brilliant.
And then great job by Wunder waiting out the 12 seconds to be able to get the second kill. Wunder knows what's going on.
He does, and you could argue that is because he plays it to a better level, that he knows how to fight against it. Could be the case. In any case, it was huge because it netted G2 the Baron and in end effect also the game, and it just went incredibly, incredibly fast. So if you're Infinity, you now have 2 things to work with. Would you tell them, okay, try and slow Jankos down again in game 3 because that is what worked for you in game 1, or where did they go?
I think that the big thing for me here is that both blue side teams had the opportunity to pick Urgot and both red side teams took it, and it was very impactful throughout the stages of the game. So I think the biggest thing for me here is that Urgot is once again showing it is the better of the 2 power picks, has more flexibility to go mid lane. I think, that aside, giving yourself windows to be able to counterpunch when you fall behind, because I think they are going to fall slightly behind in this best of 5. I don't think they should be panicked about it. I think they do need to pick for a little bit more of that utility scaling.
Yeah, I think just the complete lack of tankiness and engage options here is a horrible play. Like, I don't like when you're playing these skill matchups versus Wunder and Perkz and stuff like that. But if you're going to do it, like, okay. But to not have what actually plays into your strengths of a superior team fighting team comp is baffling to me, because that's what won you the first game. It feels like they weren't even able to identify why they won the first game.
Yeah, and I think even in the games we saw Infinity played in the group stage where they were behind, they were always good at getting those engages. So give yourself a bit more tools to work with. And then on the side of G2, of course, they can look at this and say, well, maybe game 1 was a blip on the radar. They will be looking to make as much as possible happen in the early game, I assume, for games following.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, that you've got a good insurance policy in the fact that if Hjarnan keeps picking scaling and they are able to get ganks into his lane, he has been able to repay in some late game team fights. So I think that's even further in G2's favor. Then you throw in the fact that, Wadid looks very good today, I would say, from the bottom lane. Things seem to be heating up for G2 at the right time.
G2 is now on the blue side for the next game. If you're red on Infinity, do you even risk giving that Urgot over?
No, you ban it.
I don't know. I mean, they did it the first game, and I liked the idea of just picking a better team fight comp against it. They have a lot of bans. It feels like they're forced to. If they're going to ban a Kali, they're going to ban the Heimer as well, then you don't have 2 bans to drop on it. So I thought blue side was maybe when they're going to try it, but it seems like they're just fine to leave both up.
Poppy seemed fine into the Aatrox. I mean, I think that the Urgot is more dangerous at this stage. Just ban the Urgot. I don't want to see it.
Well, there we go. We'll see if it comes out. Still everything left to play for, but after bouncing back in the series, G2 are looking to keep the momentum going in game 3. We'll see if they can get a lead over Infinity after the break.
I think it's time to take off my shoes, guys, for the 100% win ratio buff.
So this is going to be a little bit difficult. gets stunned up. Renyu gonna do what he can. The flash out of safety. That's the head, but pulverized. Arce goes down for first blood to Jankos. Are gonna get one back. Jankos, though, needs to be careful on the tree, but Perkz is here. Perkz is ready to save the day. That's one kill going down. He's pointing, he's clicking, and Cotopaco wants something so badly. Wunder is still alive. He's still looking for the outplay. He's gonna break the passive as well on the retreat. Oh my God! Potentially get the second in him. SolidSnake, the one who's too greedy, though. The killing spree from Perkz. Jankos gets the fight started getting hard and going in. He's got that lust for blood. He's ready.